Hi, Roy here on my channel Roy Reads Anything. Anything including sleazy 70s paperbacks. So I'm also, just mentioned, trying out just using natural light because I want to make these videos as low tech as possible, because it's pretty much me or us talking to friends, so you know, production values can be flipping terrible. You won't mind. Or if it's a barrier, if he's saying, oh, for God's sake, man. I mean, the worst thing about natural light is it can change, you know, clouds, stuff like that. But then that's nature. That's the order of things. Anyway, it's Garbaugust, the reading event devised by Criminoli, where we celebrate trashy novels. So I thought a trashy book about trashy books could be interesting. So here we have, from 1972, Promotion Tour by Terry Harknett, which is a sensational novel that takes the lid off the paperback publishing world, from New English Library. And just about, because red ink fades quicker than anything else, well, not anything else, it fades quicker than the other colours. Promotion Tour is a startling exposé of that profession for gentlemen, the apparently staid world of publishing. Written by a former book trade journalist who is now a best-selling paperback author, it tells of the wheeling and dealing behind the scenes of how a potential flop is promoted into the biggest seller of the season. After reading this, you will not be able to pick up another paperback without wondering how or why. So, Terry Harknett had indeed been a trade journalist for a magazine for newsagents, and his best-selling books are advertised in the back of this book because, as George G. Gilman, he wrote the Edge series, and by this time there were at least 3 on the market, which I would imagine, although they were selling sizable amounts, it probably was still not known to everybody involved that they would go on to be such a popular and long-running series, because Terry pretty much wrote that kind of thing thereafter. So yes, so they're telling us here's a guy who should know what he's talking about. That's not Terry, that's a naked woman.
I can vouch for the fact that Terry Harknett didn't look much like a naked.
No, not really. So yeah, so it's a sensational novel, is it? Right, here's the plot. So there's an author. Now, you know, they're saying that Terry is a best-selling paperback author. This is the level of author where their work is a phenomenon, and where they'd be driven around the country, interviewed by all the major media and so on. So one of those few stratospheric authors. So that had been a sort of phenomenon by this time. You'd had your Harold Robbins books, and those are specifically mentioned in here, actually. And one thing about Harold Robbins is the books were apparently full of sexy stuff, and they were banned in some places, e.g. Birmingham.
Really?
So yeah, you couldn't get the carpetbaggers in Birmingham.
It takes a lot to ban a book in
for a while.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was a thing that could happen. So the idea is, this American guy, he had his first novel, hugely successful, controversial, it's full of sex and violence, and it really sold loads and loads. Now his second novel's coming out, hence Promotion Tour. So he flies over, and another character, so his name is Luke Dennett. There's another character called Pete Husband who works for the publishers, and was a mate of this guy back when, you know, before he was a famous author. So there's that sort of dynamic going on, and 3 things at least give some jeopardy to this scenario. One, turns out the book isn't any good. Second novel syndrome. He's tried to make it a bit more literary with a bit of the old stream of consciousness. So that's a risk. 2, he's a crazed drunken lecturer a lot of the time. So will he derail his own promotion tour with his antics? And 3, another character, Pete Leary, who has, I think his name's Pete Leary, who runs the company. He's overspent massively on buying the rights to this novel and on the promotion. So basically he will get the sack unless it sells a phenomenal amount, an unprecedented huge amount, in 1 week. So that's the sort of scenario. So cue this promotion tour happening with a interesting cast of characters. It's larded with sex, right? So it is basically characters promoting a sex-filled paperback who are acting like characters in a sex-filled paperback. And the whole thing is happening in a sex-filled paperback. So there's all those layers. Now, if you saw this naked lady and thought, this is going to be an erotic book, well, hey. Think again, my friend, because the sex in this is horrible. It's like... In fact, there's a character in it who's a bit like Mary Whitehouse, the anti-pornography campaigner. It would sort of be... it's almost on her side, making sex seem like the worst thing ever. So these are characters, maybe 1972, they're crawling through the wreckage of the permissive society, and all it's, it doesn't really work. All they can do is blindly follow their urges in various squalid ways. Yes, smart wife?
I think the moment's gone. I was going to ask where the lard came in. And the idea of combining lard and sex.
Well,
bad.
Yeah, probably, even in 1972.
No, in pastry, lard does make nice crispy layers. Lard layers. Anyway, carry on. Cut that bit.
There is kinky sex as well, which is good, not because I want to read about such things, certainly from the pen of Terry Harknett, but because it's a square on the Garbaugust bingo card. So,
Cheers, Tess.
Yeah, so like I say, it's like anti-sex almost. The way it's written is there's the present day narrative, and then you get backstories of the characters, which variously show how they came to be entangled in this rather desperate business. And there are character journeys. It certainly isn't a happy ending. I mean, for one character, it's a tragedy. One character shows some signs of redemption. Some others are like, this is the way we are. That's how it is. So it's quite an interesting book, really. I mean, especially when I've probably read thousands of pages of Terry Harknett's writing, albeit in pulp westerns. And again, the similarities are probably that in the westerns, the characters are moving through a kind of a hellscape, really, a sort of surreal, violent environment where really hardly any characters have any kind of positive qualities or sort of morality, to the point where an anti-hero like Edge actually can seem quite good. And here, this driving up to Birmingham for an event in a hotel, in a press junket, so sort of seems the same kind of landscape. But yeah, if I didn't know anything about the writer, I'd think, oh, that's a pretty good book, that. And also, you get lots of insights into sort of how things worked at the time. Sort of the marketing of books, when you'd have these salesmen making deals with bookshops and within their territories and stuff like that. One thing I learned is that the equivalent, whereas now you've got sort of photo libraries, so if you're producing a cheap book and you wanted a picture for not much money, and you couldn't do your own photo shoot or anything. You could go online and have one in a few seconds. At the time, the equivalent was apparently buying cheap transparencies from America. So I would guess possibly this cover image might have been a transparency from America. Random industry aside there. So yeah, that was my Garbaugust read, part of the Anything Goes week. Let's have a look where we're at. So another book, fourth book done for the Anything Goes week. That is The First Dimension. A line with no width, travelling through the weeks of August. The second dimension is the bingo card, the line now extended into a surface. And now I get kinky sex, if you see what I mean. Kinky sex is ticked off, as is nudity on cover, definitely. And I guess this is subjective. I'm claiming wouldn't read on bus. In reality, who would care? But you know, she's got these suntan marks from a bikini. It really looks cheap and nasty. So yeah, that's another one.
And yet you don't mind telling the entire universe on the internet that you've read it. You wouldn't want some randomer on a box.
No, so on my CV, anyone from church watching? Okay, that's probably those. And in the third dimension, rising into a cube. I was thinking to make a physical model of this, I was thinking of filling a cube with jelly, and then you could put the books inside at the right level. So that would be a book for the 1970s. Okay, Garbaugust 3D. Promotion tour. Maybe having read it now, I should send it on a tour of its own. Send it on to another channel runner who can read it and do the same. Let me know if you're interested in that promotional opportunity. Okay, back soon with something else. Bye. Bye.